last week, I would recommend you go and watch this message online, because I've heard from people from our church who told me that they listened to the message 3 times after they heard it here. How cool is that? That's dedication. And so I really thought it was good. So if you want to listen to it, again, we talked about evil and where it came from. And what we concluded was that evil is not a thing. It's an absence of something. For example, like a hole in my pants is not a thing. It's an absence of something. Okay? And that means God didn't create evil. Let me say that again. God didn't create evil. Evil came into existence, or evil was activated when creatures like Lucifer and beings like Adam and Eve chose to disobey God. And when they chose to disobey God, something else was created. Why is it so important to obey God? Is it because he's a control freak, egomaniac, and wants everything to be how he wants? No. We said the answer is he's perfect. And when he commands something, there's no better options. Everything else is less than. So when God says, listen to me, he doesn't do it because he wants to control you and wants to ruin your life. He says this is the best choice. Anything else you choose will not be good enough. And anything else you choose will create a hole somewhere deep inside your being. And God says, I don't want you to have that hole deep inside your being. And many of us know that farther from God we get, the more we choose to live a life opposite of what God commands, we hurt ourselves. We hurt people we love. We hurt the community we live in. We hurt the environment we live in. We hurt the earth that we live in. Come on, somebody. But I'm not going to preach a message on where evil come from. Evil came from, just a quick reminder, when Lucifer chose something other than God, what God said. And then Adam and Eve chose something other than what God said. Now today though, we're talking about pain and suffering. Now, you don't have to be super observant to know that there's a lot of pain and suffering in this world. Many of us have already experienced, even when you're a little kid, you probably have experienced some pain. And the longer you live, the more you can see how much pain and suffering there is in the world. And the obvious questions we get asked as Christians, why, if there is a good God, he allows all the pain and suffering? For example, just last week, an elderly church growth group was driving home in Texas, and a kid who was texting and driving a pickup rammed the bus of this elderly life group or whatever they were doing. They were on church retreat, and 12 of them died, and 1 was left alive. 12 of them died. God, these people were serving you. They were praying, studying the word on that retreat. Why did they have to die? You ask that question. Now, if you're not experiencing pain right now, you're probably like, well, yeah. But if you are experiencing pain right now, maybe you have a family member who's going through cancer. Maybe you are going through something. Maybe it's a relational thing. You can't help but ask, God, where are you when bad things like evil and suffering takes place? No one is immune from pain and suffering. Have you noticed that? The rich or the poor suffer. The rich and the poor suffer. Today we're going to look at the life of Job, who was the richest man in that known time, and he suffered like I don't know if we've suffered. Even Jesus, the Son of God, was not immune to suffering. He, Bible says, was the man of sorrow who experienced sickness and pain. And later, he died on a cross as well. Why? Why did God have to put his son through that? Couldn't there be another way? If God is so good and loving, why? Why 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust? If God is so good. Why did Rwanda, the genocide in Rwanda, why is that? Why is it 100 millions of people died in World War I and World War II? Where was God? Why do children die of bone cancer? Why do babies get born with AIDS and HIV virus in Africa and other countries? Why? Where's God? Why do little babies have to die? Why is there so much illness, abuse, broken relationships, betrayal, sorrow, injuries, disappointment, heartaches, crime, and death? Why, God? Ever asked that? Ever asked that? Today we're going to have a testimony in this service about a person who's asked that question too. And the answer that God gave her, she's going to come out a little later and share with us. The point number one, and before I do that, I want to read Job 1 through 12. Let me slow down a little bit. I'm preaching already. It carried over through the first service. After the first service, it just keeps going. But let me just tell you this. We're going to read a lot of verses, 12. And some of you are like, oh, just read one verse and talk about it. But one of the life group leaders came to me last Wednesday and said, we got to teach them the Word of God. None of them know the Bible. And I'm like, yeah, they're new. He's like, what are you going to do about it? I'm going to read a lot of scriptures on Sunday while I have them. So are you guys ready? So just breathe in, breathe out, relax. We're going to read 12 verses. It's going to be good, believe me. There was once a man named Job who lived in the land of Uz. He was blameless, a man of complete integrity. He feared God and stayed away from evil. That word fear God, he respected. He had honest respect, love for God. It's not that fear like you're scared. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He owned 7,000 sheep. He was rich. He owned 3,000 camels, 500 teams of oxen. That means 1,000 oxen. There was teams. And 500 female donkeys. He also had many servants. He was, in fact, the richest person in the area. I want to give you a little more detailed information. He was not a Jew. He does not live in a land where Jews live. Now, Job's sons would take turns preparing feasts in their homes, and they would also invite their 3 sisters to celebrate with them. So he had 10 children. In that day, that's a blessed family. 7 sons, 3 daughters. All right? When the celebration ended, sometimes after several days, Job would purify his children. He would get up early in the morning and offer burnt offering for each of them. For Job said to himself, perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. This was Job's regular practice. So what Job is doing, we don't do this today, obviously, offering, but we do pray for our children, right? So he was worried. Maybe they, 2nd generation rich, right? Have you heard about that? Have you studied about that 88% or 80% of the millionaires in America today are 1st generation? What happens to the 2nd generation? They spend it, they're spoiled. That's why I'm so tough on my kids. Get to work. Do something. Do you have too much? You want a 4-wheeler? Well, here, you want this? Like, don't give your kids everything. Make them work for it. It's not good. So Job knows this. He realizes that he's walking blameless with God. Same thing happens with your faith. 1st generation parents were on fire. Kids are like, it's just my parents' religion. They're used to good life that God provided through their parents, and now they're just thinking it just comes without doing anything. No, it comes by serving God. The blessing comes, listen to me, by serving God and living according to His commandments. Don't fool yourself. It doesn't just come by itself. And so Job knows that, and he is offering the sacrifices for his children. Do you pray for your children? Do you pray for each and every one of your children? I think God is trying to say something. Start praying for your children. Don't just say somehow, some way. No, let's pray for our children. Let's pray for our youth and young adults. Let's keep praying for them. All right, let's keep going. One day, the members of heavenly court, in a different translation, it says, one day, the sons of God. The sons of God. Heavenly court came to present themselves before the Lord. Now, I don't think heavenly court, I think, could be established anywhere. I don't think this had to be necessarily in heaven, because Satan got kicked out of heaven. How can he come to heaven? See, a court could be set up anywhere. For example, when U.S. forces went to Iraq, guess what they set up there? They set up cities there. I've actually talked to some people here who said they built purification systems for water purification. They do sewer, because they build small cities, right? I mean, the engineers go and they build a small city where 50,000 men and women live. You don't think about it. They don't occupy a city. They build a city in a desert. So, and then they set up court there, they set up authority there, command center there. So this could be the same thing. One day, the members of heavenly court came to present themselves before the Lord, and the accuser, Satan, came with them. See, Satan cannot do whatever he wants. When God says you need to be in court today, Satan has to be in court. God and Satan are not equals. Remember that. God and Satan are not equals. Just because he rebelled, he didn't automatically become equal. God is in control. You come to court today. You are summoned to court today. Okay, God. And he better comes. He knows that. That part he can't disobey. And watch this. Where have you come from? The Lord asked Satan. Satan answered to the Lord, I have been patrolling the earth. I think God is saying, what have you been doing? Not that he doesn't know. He wants to hear. Remember, like he asked Adam and Eve, where are you? Not because he didn't know. He wanted to hear from them. Okay, so he says, where have you been? Satan says, I have been patrolling the earth. So what is he doing? Patrolling the earth. Watching everything that's going on. Then the Lord asked Satan, have you noticed my servant Job? God is bragging on a man. That could be a good thing and a bad thing. I want God to brag on me, but I don't want that to happen to me, right? So maybe we could be, like Solomon says, don't be too good. Okay, no, that's not what it means, but some people take that to mean that. Have you noticed my servant Job? He's the finest man in all the earth. He's blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and stays away from evil. God is bragging about Job. Man, what kind of man is Job? A good guy who does not deserve pain and suffering because he lives a life right, that God even points him out. Satan replied to the Lord, yes, but Job has a good reason to fear you. There's a motive behind why Job fears you. And it's not good for you, God, why he fears you. Listen to this. You have always put a wall of protection around him. Let me stop here. You have always put a wall of protection. When you walk in obedience to God, there is a wall of protection around your life that Satan cannot break, at least without permission. Notice, Job is not the only one who has a wall of protection around him. You have one too. I have one too. In my life, I've experienced many close calls. Near-death experience even once. Why am I still here? Why am I still here? Because the Lord has a wall of protection around me. What about you? You wouldn't be here. Listen to me. You would not be here if God removed that wall of protection around you. See, but you say, Pastor, but why there's still pain and suffering in my life? Because there has to be a reason why God allows it, but He doesn't remove it. In the book of Thessalonians, it says there's a spirit that's withholding that evil in the world. And then when it's removed, the evil will start ruling. This world will not be like it is today. God is withholding it. The evil wants to take over this earth. God is withholding it. Okay? But I think I'm so glad that I have a wall of protection. I'm so glad Satan doesn't choose when to attack me. Aren't you? Because Satan is merciless. God is good, so if He chooses to allow a little pain in my life, maybe it's because He wants to discipline me or something like that, but I know it's for my good. All things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to His purpose. So even the pain and suffering works good for me. But I definitely don't want to fall into the hands of Satan, because his whole goal is to kill, steal, destroy. You have put a wall of protection around him. I believe, I know that when we live according to the will of God, God has a wall of protection around us. Many years ago, in the middle of the night, I woke up. I couldn't sleep, and I'm like, oh, I need to sleep. I got to go to work tomorrow. I got a big climbing job to do, tree climbing job to do. Got to cut down a tree. And as I can't sleep, I just heard this from another preacher. If you can't sleep, get up and pray. If you can't sleep for a long time, then come up and we'll pray for you. See the difference? If you can't sleep at night, get up and pray. If you can't sleep for a long period of time, many days, come up and we'll pray for you here. Okay? Because God has given sleep to many people after we prayed for them by the grace of God. And so I woke up and I was like, fine, I'll pray. But what should I pray about? God doesn't really tell you what to pray about. Have you ever had that? Right? And so I get up and I pray. I actually like a snake fall off my bed. On my knees, pray, you know. Thank God we can pray in the Spirit. And so, because we don't know what to pray about. And then I got back into my bed and fell asleep. Next morning, I'm climbing a tree, a big tree. And it's right next to the power lines and it's windy. So I tie off, I get to the top of the tree. I tie off a branch about that big. It's a maple tree. I tie it off and I cut it. And when I cut it, the branch, instead of going the way I wanted it to go, falls directly on the high voltage power lines. Okay? Now, these are not the wire, this is not the power wire that goes from the pole to the house, because that one is usually insulated. It's the one that goes between pole and pole, and they had like 4 or 5 wires in one. So it's it's like 15,000 watt or something like that. I mean, there's a lot of voltage going through those wires. And this limb, instead of going this way, it falls without, I didn't cut it through yet. So the bottom part, the part I was cutting was still hanging to the branch. And it falls and lays on the power wires. And in a second, I feel a vibration going through me. And in a second, I feel the tree start sizzling. It starts going. I look at the leaves. So I look at the leaves, and from the inside, it starts burning. Aaron, have you ever seen that? You probably have. It starts sizzling. I feel vibration. I'm like, what should I do? I mean, you have to make a split-second decision. And so I just yelled to the guys who are holding the rope, just drop it, let it fall. I don't care what it breaks. They drop it, and thank God it disconnects first from the tree where I didn't finish cutting and falls down, slides off the power lines. And I'm breathing heavily because I felt vibration go through me. I could have been killed. Guys have been killed with lesser power. And then I remember at that moment, God woke me up. That was the wall of protection. Guys, some of you have dangerous job. You work construction, climbing far up. Some of you, like our famous guy here, he's in the video room, Kevin Schmidt. He climbs those towers to 2,000 feet. He became famous. His video went viral. Did you know that? The video, that drone taking a video of him climbing. Anyway, those are dangerous jobs. You know, by the mercies of God, we're still here, Bible says. It's because of His mercy. So I just want you to be confident that you're not living a random chance life that anything could happen. No. God is in control of your life. God says when yes and when no to your life. Let's just keep reading. Verse 10 still. You have always put a wall of protection around him and his home and his property. You have made him prosper in everything he does. Look how rich he is. But reach out and take away everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. Let's stop there. Well, no, let's read 12. All right, you may test him, the Lord said to Satan. Do whatever you want with everything he possesses, but don't harm him physically. So Satan left the Lord's presence. There's a lot of lessons in there. Satan cannot do anything. He's not equal to God. He has to ask God permission. And I think most of the time God says no, but sometimes he says, okay, you can test him. God already knew the answer, but Job didn't. And Satan surely didn't. Now, two responses happen when people are faced with great suffering and pain. Number one, they leave that verse. Number one is they get closer to God or they curse God. The reason I'm preaching this message today, so when if you are facing hard times right now, you wouldn't curse God in your heart. Notice it's not even with your words. It's in your heart. I heard a story of on 9/11 when the airplane struck the Twin Towers in New York, that many people who saw that came closer to God. And many people who saw the same thing stopped believing in God altogether. So pain and suffering actually produces something, as we can see here. It clarifies our faith. Is it real? Is it genuine? Or is it fake? Now, it's easy to serve God when He has a hedge of protection around you, when you are rich, when everything is going good. Now, it's much harder when life is hard. Are you a true believer or are you a fake believer? Testing and trials, that's what they show. Now, let's go into point number one. It's a long, and I got not much time. Why does God allow evil and suffering? Evil and suffering presents a challenge for us believers. Because when people come to me, Pastor, why does this thing happen to me? I had a father, had two sons, called me and said, my son committed suicide. I'm a Christian. I went to Bible school. Why do these bad things happen to me? And you know what? I didn't know what to say. All I can do is, maybe we can help financially as a church. That's it. There's no answer, and I've been stuck there. Guys, I've been stuck there. God, why? The young man had so much to live for. So suffering does present a challenge for belief in God. However, evil and suffering presents even greater challenge for the unbelievers. Yes, it does present a challenge for Christians, but for unbelievers, it presents an even greater challenge. Here's why. Because if there is no God, this world is a cold, harsh, no purpose, no reason, no future, random chance environment. If you don't believe in God, then you have to go with the evolution, the survival of the fittest. It's normal for the strong to eat the weak, right? If there's no God, we live and we die. And so that's why it's so hopeless for people who don't have God. For believers, there is at least some explanation, right? For believers, we know that God is in control. We know that God is with us in our suffering, right? Because David says, even though I walk through the valley of shadow and death, I will fear no evil because you are with me. So God is with us in that. That brings us comfort. That brings us hope. We know that even if we die, there is eternity. But what about for unbeliever? Live, survive, die, the end. That's a miserable, horrible existence. For believers, we know that things work together for our good. James says, count it all joy when you face suffering, because God is producing something from your faith. Peter says the same thing. David says, it was good for me that I was afflicted. I got to know you. I got closer to you. But what about for unbeliever? Babies dying at the young age, and there's nothing else. It's over. This world is harsh. So unbelievers have more problems. And see, I would stop being a Christian if there was some better point of view. But there isn't. If there was a better God, I would go to him, but there isn't one. So what? You become an atheist. Now what? You got more problems. You die and that's it. Or people close to you die and that's it. You'll never see them again. See, as a believer, I know that when children die, and listen, this is not an emotional explanation. This is intellectual explanation. According to the Bible, when children die, they go to be in the presence of God. But if you don't believe in God and children dies, it's hopeless. You will never see the child. I can't imagine losing a child, but you'll never see them again. So being an unbeliever offers more. I wish it wouldn't. I wish it would be easier when you become an unbeliever. But it doesn't. See, I believe the Bible says there's an age of accountability. And I'm not a Calvinist, so I believe this. I believe if children die of AIDS in Africa, guess where they go? Into the presence of God. See, for God, it's like this. He sees you in one place because he's everywhere, right? He's the source. He sees you here on earth, and he sees the child suffering with AIDS, sicknesses, kidney failures, whatever. And he sees that. Or the next moment, the child is in his arms. See, for God is a little different because the truth is, nobody ever dies. Now, let me clarify that. No one ever ceases to exist. That's clarification. No one ever ceases to exist. Even Satan cannot die. Notice, God cannot kill Satan. Once he created him, he cannot kill him. You know what he does? He ties him up, he binds him in chains and throws him in a bottomless pit. That's it. But Satan doesn't get killed at the end. He's just, like we do to prisoners. What do? We do to murderers and rapists and things like that. What do? We put them away for the rest of their life. Sounds cruel. Well, God does the same thing, except his is a little more crueler. But how do you stop evil? You have to, if you can't eliminate it, you have to separate it. And that's what God does. So children, when they die, according to the Bible, I know for parents, this is not, if your child died and I came to your home, I would not say this. Because intellectual arguments are no good when people are facing emotional pain. I wouldn't say that. I would just sit there and just zip it. Just cry with you. Just say, I'm so sorry. That's all. But intellectually, I know. Theologically, I know that they're in the presence of God growing up. We lost 2 children before they were born in miscarriage, before our first one was born. And I know that they are in the presence of God. I will see them. We told Junior, you're not the firstborn, you're the third. In heaven, you'll have 2 more brothers or sisters. And so, remember, you will never die. You will live just where. And that's why Jesus says, whoever believes in me will not perish, but have everlasting life. And you know what Bible calls the second death? It's spending eternity away from God. It's worse than death. But just remember, nobody ever dies. So children don't die. It still hurts here on earth though. But for God, imagine if your child went on a mission trip. Are they dead? If they're in Honduras on a mission trip, are they dead? No, but they're not with you. Where are they? Same for God. See, they're here or they're with Him. Still does not make us feel better though if we lost the child or if we lost the loved one. I lost 3 of my grandparents already, and it's tough. It's tough. You go through these emotions and you're like, but as a believer, I have hope. As a believer, you have hope. And if you're not a believer today, you can make Jesus the Lord of your life, and you can have this great hope. Because nobody will ever cease to exist. We just transition from physical to spiritual, from temporary to eternal. Now, I don't want to go there right away. I want to live my life and fulfill my purpose. But one day, I know I will be with Him. I will be with Him. For a believer, there is at least some explanation. For the unbeliever, we live, we die, end of story. So I don't believe, when you are angry at God, to go and become an atheist is not a better option. It's not. It's not a better option. Now, 2 responses to suffering. I've kind of alluded already to it. 2 responses for suffering. Emotional and intellectual. I already explained the emotional one, right? If you're suffering, I wouldn't come to you and give you all the theological and philosophical reasons why you're suffering. Don't do that. When you're visiting somebody who is sick or has cancer or something like that, just be there with them. Tell them you care. Show them you care. Don't talk a lot. Okay? Just zip it. But there's an intellectual response to pain and suffering, and it begins with these 2 huge questions that pose a problem. Number 1, if God allows evil and suffering to continue because He can't stop it, then He might be good, but not all powerful. If God allows evil and suffering to continue because He can't stop it, then He might be good, but not all powerful. On the other hand, if God could stop evil and suffering, but chooses not to, then He might be all powerful, but not all good and loving. So God is either good, but not all powerful, because He can't stop, or He's powerful, but not all good, because He can't stop it, but won't. Or He doesn't exist. And I believe all 3 of those are wrong. I do believe God exists. I do believe He's all loving. And I do believe He is all powerful. So what's the explanation, Pastor Alex? There has to be a different explanation. Genesis chapter 2 verse 16 gives us a little glimpse of an explanation. It says this, but the Lord God warned him. Say warned. Warned. I warned you. You may freely eat the fruit of every tree in the garden, except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. If you eat its fruit, you are sure to die. So here's a small explanation. Maybe it doesn't make complete sense, but God said, Eve, Adam, don't eat of this because you will bring something into your human being. It will cause a hole inside of you. Remember, what is evil? It's an absence of something. So God says, when you disobey me, but why did God have to create the tree even? So you can have a choice. Otherwise, you'd be a robot. And guess what? Robots don't love. Robots cannot love, not unless you can program them, but then they do what you want. They don't do it out of their free will. Whew, I'm preaching good this morning. All right. So if you eat its fruit, you are sure to die. Notice Adam and Eve didn't die right away. But something happened. Corruption entered them and began to slowly corrupt. And they lived 1,000 years. But eventually they died. So what is evil? Evil is choosing to disobey God, and it causes a lot of pain and suffering. And we talked about moral evil last week. When we choose to disobey God's commandments, we cause pain to ourselves, to people we love, to our society, to our community. It's all because we disobey God. So listen, do yourself a favor. Try to obey God's commandments. Jesus said, if you love me, keep my commandments. And they're not for him, they're for us. Now, we don't keep God's commandments to be saved. Listen to me, because some of you will be like, see, it's by works. No, it's not by works. We are saved by faith. But then we realize wisdom is, okay, I better do what Dad says. Right? I better do what he says or I'm going to hurt myself. That's wisdom. That's not salvation anymore. We're saved apart from anything we do. Like, for example, when at the end of the service I say, if you want to get saved, raise your hand, right? What happens? You don't have to do any works. You are saved on the spot by believing in Jesus. So why should we obey commandments? Because it's wise. David says, your laws make me wiser than my teachers. It's wisdom. It's good when you have kids. Some of your kids are smarter than others, and you can see the smart child, the wise child. It's easier for them than for the. I don't have those kind of kids, but maybe you do. People watching online, you know, the wise child. Anyway, get myself in trouble. My son said, Dad, good message today, so I better not ruin it for a second service. Amen. Yeah. So why doesn't God stop? Because he would have to program you. And God is not interested in robots, because robots cannot love of free will. That's why he put that tree there. I believe the tree was just another regular tree. There was no poison in the tree or in its fruit. It was just a point of disobedience. When they disobeyed, something happened on the inside of them. Sin entered the world, and the Bible says after sin, death. And so, when Adam and Eve disobeyed God, the world broke. We live in a broken world. Nature is broken. People are broken. Hang out with somebody, you meet somebody, you think they're perfect, right? Hang out with them long enough and you'll see how broken they are. People come to this church, oh, Pastor, he's so awesome. Hang out with me a little bit, you'll see how broken I am. Stop it. Stop laughing. Hang out with you and you'll see how broken you are. So we're all broken, so stop being like, oh, I can't believe it. What? You better? Think you better than me? This drunk guy was walking, looked, you think you're better than me, man? What, you think you're better than me because you went to church? We have a lot of people who go to the bar, then walk by the church. We live in a broken world. Notice when God says to Adam, cursed is the earth because of your disobedience. I thought about it. God, why would you break the earth because of Adam? And I got a revelation that God didn't break the earth. The curse was when we are broken, and because we are the top of creation in this world. There's no higher being on this earth than human beings. Monkeys are not smarter than us. Dolphins are cute, but they're not smarter and more intelligent than us, right? So we are the top, and so whatever we do, we create a ripple effect. For example, you take a stone and you throw it in the water, and it'll continue to go until it can go no more. So the earth got broken because of us, because we are the highest. We didn't just break ourselves, we break our environment around us. That's what we do. That's what people do. Plus, what was Adam made from? Now we know where his spirit came from, and God breathed the spirit into his nostrils, Adam. But what was Adam made from? The dirt. You are dirt. You're made of dirt, and you will return to dirt, God says. That's a part of the curse. I think God could have removed evil. Just kill Adam and Eve. That would be it. How would you like to be in that world? You wouldn't. You wouldn't exist. But here's good news. God has a plan. God has a plan. He's not done yet. God has a plan. But the reason the world is so broken is because of our choices, because of free will. Think about it. Sometimes people suffer from self-inflicted wounds. A lot of people in our culture suffer from self-inflicted wounds. Sometimes people suffer because of sins of others, our parents, grandparents, things like that. Sometimes people suffer because of no human fault. Sometimes people suffer because people get sick and die. Sometimes people suffer because of natural disasters. Sometimes people suffer because of inward, emotional, or mental pain, right? Have you ever had that? Sometimes people suffer because of human error. In the nuclear blast in Ukraine, Chernobyl, right? That was human error. A lot of people suffered because of that. Sometimes baby suffers because of the parents' choices. And sometimes we suffer because Satan hates you. You have an enemy who comes to kill, steal, and destroy. So biblical answer, we live in a broken world, but God is going to change all of that. God is going to change all of that. But here's good news. God will use pain and suffering to accomplish his purposes in our life, to draw people closer to him. Before the service, I had a young lady come to me and say, I want to share a testimony. And I think I should, right? Quick testimony. Christina, would you come and tell us about your story and how God used it for the good?
Awesome. Yeah, I a lot of people know me, and a lot of people would never guess some of the things that as a little girl I went through. But I just think that it's the grace of God in my life, and that God can do for me to same for any of you. But I was a little girl, and I didn't know that my mother was schizophrenic. But she was schizophrenic, and so she didn't feed me or my brother or anything like that. So, I mean, I was like, and my parents got divorced like almost immediately after I was born. So they were fighting for custody, and she didn't feed us. So I went, I guess, almost starved like a lot of my life up until about 5-6 years old, until my dad got custody of us fully. And then my dad got remarried, and then my stepmother abused me, and physically, and then my brother died when I was like 11, and yeah, it was just hard. It was a hard childhood, but I remember asking God every single moment, like, where were you in those moments? God, show me where you were in those moments. And he showed me exactly where he was. He showed me that those circumstances happened. And I knew God didn't do that because I was a little girl, and I was saved when I was a little girl at a church. And they asked me, do you want to ask Jesus in your heart? I was like, yes, I want him to come live in my heart. And so I always thought he lived right here in my heart. And so I had that as a little girl. But I think it's so true that you have two choices in life. One, circumstances can happen to you, and you can get farther apart from God, or you can get closer to God. And I know that was an opportunity for me to get closer to God because, now in my life, you couldn't convince me God isn't real because of those moments. And I remember asking God, between me and the broom, where were you? He said I was right in the middle. And he showed me he was right there in the middle between the broom and me. And every circumstance, every time I was getting hit, anything like that, he showed me I was right there. And I could take that with me. Now I'm like, there's nothing nobody can do. Like, you remember this? Can you pull up the scripture just really quick? The one where the devil it's in Job. The devil is saying to God, like, if you take all those things away from him, he'll curse you. I don't remember which one that was, but 11. Okay, thanks, Pastor. But it says, but reach out and take away everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. And I think to myself when I hear that, if the devil says that about me and he's trying to get God on me, this is what I think God's going to say. Watch her, she won't. And I think we all have the opportunity for God to say that. Amen. What will I say? Yeah. Watch her, she won't. Watch you, he won't. So I truly believe that circumstances are an opportunity. What does the Bible say? God is bigger in your weakness. I think that it's just an opportunity for each and every single one of us. Your sufferings, your pain, your hardship. Life is full of it. And no matter where you are, maybe if you've had a perfect life, your life isn't over. You might still encounter sufferings in your life. But that's an opportunity for God to shine in your life. And my family, everyone would attest to this now, but when I was that age, people would say to me, oh, she's just a shy little girl. She's just a shy little girl. Because I didn't talk. I was very afraid of people, because I thought, everyone was out to get me, And I was very like, who are you? What kind of person are you? Just very cautious of people. And you would look at me and people would say, I would never know that happened to you. Like some people are like, you had that kind of childhood? I'm like, yeah, it was hard. But the grace of God protected me like a hedge. But I knew that in that moment, it wasn't God doing those things to me. But instead, God was making me stronger. And God was going to prepare me. And in my heart, I knew God saying, I'll make up for it. And God was telling me that as a little girl. And so I just think, you just go back to the hard times in your life, the suffering that you've experienced, and say, God, where were you? What were you saying to me? He'll say, I have something better in store for you. Just take those mistakes because I got something better. You just wait. I'm not done yet. And I think even if we haven't seen it in our life is just a breath of air. But if you let God give time to your life, and even here and hereafter, he's going to make it up to you. If there's suffering, something you haven't got answers to, he'll make it up to you. And I know he will, because he's a good God. And he says that. It's all going to be over with. And for each and every one of you, you just wait. God will make it up to you. So that's all I have.
Thank you so much. That was so awesome. You could never tell you were shy. The end, God always controls the end. If you trust him, like Job did, and although he complained a little bit, although he couldn't understand why, at the end we know that God was proven right. Bible says that God doubled in Job's life everything for his trouble. So I believe if you endure to the end, you will be saved. I believe that if you endure to the end, you will receive that crown of life. As believers, I'm glad. I like being a Christian because I have such great hope. I have a hedge of protection in this life. Satan couldn't just do whatever he wanted. It's only by permission of my Father. But I know there's a great future as well. I know this life is not all there is. Instinctively, I know in my heart that this is not all there is. There is more. There's more. And so I find comfort in that. The American dream says happiness is all there is on earth. But God says, no, your suffering is producing something. And I'm going to finish with this verse, 1 Peter 1:3 or something like that. Oh no, 1 Peter 1:6-7. So be truly glad. Why? There is wonderful joy ahead, even though you must endure many trials for a little while. Apostle Paul says this life and these temporary suffering produce something in us. He says greater glory. You know, I believe if you suffer on this earth and you don't abandon God, you will shine like the stars forever and ever. Lucifer was not the only one who was given the garment with diamonds in him. I believe people who suffer in this life and go through it, they will shine just as bright or brighter. These trials will show that your faith is genuine. So for believers, what does suffering do? It produces something good in us. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold. Though your faith is far more precious than mere gold. So when your faith remains strong through many trials, you can't escape trials, remember that. It will bring you, who? You. It will bring you much praise, glory, and honor on the day when Jesus Christ is revealed to the whole world. What an awesome verse. Atheist, no explanation, no hope, nothing. Believers, it produces the greater glory which will be revealed and lasts for eternity.